It's not going to get better, is it, if the tariffs come into effect? People are going to be worse off when Trump's tariffs come into effect, won't they? That's the truth, and that's what you're dealing with.
Well, I don't think anybody wants to see tariffs.
But you acknowledge we are going to get them.
Well, look, we're working hard on an economic deal, which we've made rapid progress on, and I hope we can make really speedy resolutions on. But look, the likelihood is there will be...
Keir Starmer did everything he could to appease and win Trump over. He visited Washington, awkwardly touching Trump whenever they laughed as if he was his friend. All this was to get tariff exemptions, and Starmer was hopeful he would succeed.
Security Conference, Vice President Vance condemned free speech violations in the UK, particularly. Could you respond? What is your message?
I have an idea. We have the man right here. Come on. Let's go, JD. We're putting you on stage.
Great. Yeah, look, I said what I said, which is that we do have, of course, a special relationship with our friends in the UK and also with some of our European allies. But we also know that there have been infringements on free speech that actually affect not just the British. Of course, what the British do in their own country is up to them, but also affect American technology companies and by extension American citizens. So that is something that we'll talk about today at lunch.
However, Trump has done something that has embarrassed Starmer, making his earlier begging go to waste. But what has happened, and how did Trump laugh Starmer out the door? In this video, let's find out. Keir Starmer embarked on what was sold as a consequential diplomatic mission to the United States. But it became an embarrassment. With hands awkwardly placed on Trump's back and cringe-worthy attempts at banter, Starmer looked less like a British Prime Minister and more like a desperate intern trying to impress the CEO. It was begging at its peak, and Trump knew what Starmer was trying to get: tariff exemptions.
And it is my pleasure to bring from His Majesty the King a letter. He sends his best wishes and his regards, of course, but he also asked me to bear this letter and bring it to you. So can I present the letter from the King to you?
Thank you very much. Am I supposed to read it right now?
Yeah, please do.
Starmer even delivered the King's letter as a courier boy, but got condescending answers. Trump said he would honour the King and Britain by visiting the country.
Yes, what I haven't got yet is your answer. I do need to...
The answer is yes. On behalf of our wonderful First Lady, Melania, and myself, the answer is yes, and we look forward to being there and honouring the King and honouring really your country. Your country is a fantastic country, and it'll be our honour to be there. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. President. I shall happily take that back to His Majesty.
It's beautiful.
However, Starmer wanted something else. He wanted to secure a tariff exemption for the UK. His method was to compliment Trump on Ukraine, gift him a second royal state visit, and even pitch a controversial idea to give the Chagos Islands back to Mauritius, all in hopes of appearing geopolitically useful.
Thank you, Mr. President. Can I say thank you for your hospitality, for your leadership. We have met a number of times, we've talked a number of times, and we have had a very constructive conversation. I'm sure we will today. And of course, our countries have been bound together for a very long time now. The closest alliance, I think, of any two countries when it comes to prosperity and security. And I know that together we will strengthen that even further. And on issues like Ukraine, thank you for changing the conversation to bring about the possibility that now we can have a peace deal. And we want to work with you to make sure that peace deal is enduring.
Starmer thought he could bank on a special relationship. Instead, he got ghosted by Trump's trade team. He thought he was a priority. However, Trump's administration didn't even list the UK in the first round of diplomatic outreach. While Marco Rubio was calling allies, the UK was nowhere on the list.
Mr. President, did our Prime Minister persuade you not to put tariffs on the UK? And if I may, Prime Minister, do you think that Vladimir Putin is a man who will keep his word? Thanks.
He tried. He was working hard, I'll tell you that. He earned whatever the hell they pay him over there. But he tried. I think there's a very good chance that in the case of these two great friendly countries. I think we could very well end up with a real trade deal where the tariffs wouldn't be necessary. We'll see, but he earned whatever they pay him. He earned today. He was working hard at lunch, and I'm very receptive to it. I think in all fairness, in all seriousness, I think we have a very good chance at arriving at a very good deal. JD and Scott and Howard, all the people are working on it, and I think we have a good chance at arriving at a deal that could be terrific.
Meanwhile, Trump and his Republicans made it clear Europe was no longer a priority. Their pivot is toward the Indo-Pacific and confronting China. That should have been Starmer's first clue that Britain's days as a privileged ally were over. But instead of adjusting to this reality, he continued to push for relevance. He walked into a room that no one invited him into and tried to make himself the center of attention. Washington moved on. Starmer did not.
Just to follow up on that, if British troops are in Ukraine keeping the peace and get attacked by Russia, will you come to their aid?
If the British people are in Ukraine and they get attacked,
If British soldiers are in Ukraine.
I've always found about the British, they don't need much help. They can take care of themselves very well.
That sounds like
You know what? No, it sounds like it's evasive, but it's not evasive. The British have been incredible soldiers, incredible military, and they can take care of themselves. But if they need help, I'll always be with the British, okay? I'll always be with them. But they don't need help. You look at their career. You have done very well over the years, haven't you?
We have. I'm very proud of our country. And but we've also always been there backing each other up between our two countries. That is why this is the greatest alliance for prosperity and security I think the world has ever seen. Whenever necessary, we've absolutely backed each other up, and that's at the
Could
core
you take on Russia by yourselves?
Well,
At that moment, Starmer knew Trump would not come to save the UK or would accept to exempt the UK from tariffs. This is the centerpiece of Starmer's failure. He reassured Parliament, the press, and industry leaders that Britain would not be hit with US tariffs. He even claimed rapid progress was being made on a UK-US economic prosperity deal. But within days, Starmer was forced to backtrack.
look, we're working hard on an economic deal which we've made rapid progress on, and I hope we can make really speedy resolutions on. But look, the likelihood is there will be tariffs. Nobody welcomes that. We're obviously working with the sectors most impacted at pace on that. Nobody wants to see a trade war, but I have to act in the national interest. And that means that all options have to remain on the table.
No trade war, that sounds to me like you're saying you don't want to immediately introduce retaliatory tariffs. You're going to take your time.
Well, I'm not going to get ahead of myself, but I am talking to the sectors most impacted, and I think what they want most is a calm and collected response to this, not a knee-jerk response. We are, of course, negotiating an economic deal which will, I hope, deal and mitigate the tariffs. That's, I think, where most people would want this to land. Can't predict the future on that, but we're working hard on it.
The way Starmer was terrified, nervous and confused could not be hidden. He knew tariffs were coming and that he had failed. He knew they were going to hit steel, aluminum and autos. However, instead of responding appropriately, Starmer directed all Labour ministers to go flexible. Listen to what one minister said.
Let's start with the government's reaction to these tariffs that have ultimately come into effect from the US, 25% on steel and aluminium. What's the government response?
Well, it's obviously disappointing that the US has imposed these tariffs on steel and aluminium. We're champions of free and open trade. But our response to this is a pragmatic one, and it's to continue negotiating rapidly for an economic agreement with the US with the potential to eliminate additional tariffs, because we know that's in the best interest of UK businesses. And that's the kind of cool-headed, pragmatic approach that we're going to continue, where we engage closely and productively with the US.
It's beyond understanding what's the use of remaining cool-headed now, when the tariffs have already been imposed. It becomes clear that Starmer's desperate attempt to carve out a UK exemption was laughed out the door. His earlier flattery, gestures and desperation counted for nothing. Trump pulled the rug out from under him, and Starmer didn't see it coming. Before we continue further, tell us, Are you enjoying the video? If yes, please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel for more exclusive videos on the groundbreaking changes happening in British politics. Let's continue now. Now, Trump's Liberation Day tariffs are sweeping and brutal. 25% on steel and aluminum. 25% on cars not made in the US. Reciprocal tariffs are designed to punish countries with value-added tax systems like the UK. Starmer had no fallback plan. His team scrambled at the 11th hour with proposals to scrap the digital services tax and offer the US access to UK markets in future technologies.
Although I am hoping that Starmer will negotiate for us not to enter a tariff regime in a couple of days, but I'm not quite sure that this Labour government speak the same language as JD Vance and Trump, and how foolish they were not to accept my offer of help. But there you are.
But it was too late. The tariffs hit anyway. The UK steel industry, already limping, is now in a deeper crisis. Car manufacturers like Jaguar Land Rover, which sell 100% of their US vehicles from abroad, are hit head-on. Starmer tried to negotiate his way out of a firestorm that had already burned the bridge. Northern Ireland is staring down at least £100 million in lost sales from Trump's new tariffs, with industries like whiskey and pharmaceuticals bracing for impact. The UK government now admits tariffs will be applied to Northern Ireland, despite attempts to separate it from wider UK designations. Customs officials won't care if whiskey comes from Ireland or the UK. There will be no sophistication in Trump's blanket tariff regime, and Starmer has no mechanism to protect small business owners on either side of the Irish Sea. However, in all that, Starmer was smiling for cameras in Washington and financial markets were crashing. Investors expected retaliation from the EU, China, and other powers. The UK, however, looked weak and disjointed. Starmer refused to even consider retaliatory tariffs, unlike the EU and Canada. He kept talking about a cool-headed approach, while US tariffs wiped out any fiscal wiggle room left in Rachel Reeves's spring budget.
But I don't think a trade war is in our interest. But of course, the national interest is what I am guided by, and therefore we must have all options on the table.
Just one more thing on Donald Trump. You have worked so hard with him. You have pulled your punches. You haven't criticised him publicly. He suggested prospects of no tariffs when we were at the White House. And now this. Do you feel played by him?
Look, the US is our closest ally. Our defence, our security, our intelligence are bound up in a way that no two other countries are. So it's obviously in our national interest to have a close working relationship with the US, which we've had for decades, and I want to ensure we have for decades to come. And I don't question that in any way. Obviously, we are discussing economic deals. We're well advanced on. These would normally take months or years, and in a matter of weeks, we've got well advanced in those discussions. So I think that a calm approach, a collected approach, not a knee-jerk approach, is what's needed in the best interests of our country.
However, the Office for Budget Responsibility is already forecasting economic damage and possible tax hikes, all while Starmer continues spinning the narrative that a deal with Trump is well advanced. In reality, the UK is further behind than ever.
Down on this.
I've looked at that forecast, and the OBR, the Office of Budget Responsibility, actually says that people are going to feel worse off before they feel better off, and that all of that 500 quid at the end of the Parliament could wipe out anyway. You know that, right?
Well, Beth, look, £1,400 a year better off under the national living wage. That's real. That's coming into force today. I'm here at Nationwide. They get paid on April the 20th.
You acknowledge that.
That's
Things
real
could get
money
worse
in their
before
pocket.
they get better.
Well, wages are going up higher than prices. I'm not going to stand here and say people don't feel the impact of bills.
Yeah.
After what Trump did, it becomes clear that the idea that Britain still holds a special relationship with the US is no longer there. However, Starmer clung to it like a security blanket. He tried to be everything: the diplomat, the statesman, the middleman between the US and Europe. But Trump saw through it all. The US wants leverage, not loyalty. It wants concessions, not compliments. Britain's post-Brexit identity as a standalone power was supposed to give it maneuverability. But Starmer proved the opposite. He maneuvered right into a dead end. The UK wasn't first in line for anything. It was simply next in line for punishment. In the end, the image that will stick is this: Keir Starmer, smiling awkwardly, trying to act like Trump's equal, only to return home empty-handed. His mission failed. His promises backfired. The UK got hit with blanket tariffs anyway. British industries are now staring down disaster, and all Starmer can say is that he is working hard and rapid progress is being made. What do you think? Will Trump always get Starmer to do what he wants, but later betray him? Isn't it true that Starmer embarrassed himself in Washington just only to get tariffs exemption, but now the UK is being hit hard by tariffs? In the comments section right below, share your thoughts on Starmer begging but getting rejected by Trump because he does not matter. Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If yes, please like and share the video and subscribe to get more updates on British politics and how events are changing it. Until the next video, stay tuned.